So, if you remember in my reacting to my old videos video, I mentioned I was going to do this. You probably don't remember that video is like months old at this point, but still, I did say I would be doing it, and here we are with this video. Basically, what this video is going to do is dissect this shitty story, and well, whenever I come on something that I think is bad or think is good, I'm going to comment on it, basically. That's how I usually do these things. I critique stories that I think need critiquing. So yeah, NoEnd House. This is a classic. This is a fucking classic. Okay, that's a pretty banger opening line. I gotta say. Let me start by saying that Peter Terry was addicted to heroin. Huh? Yeah, interesting. We were met. We were friends in college and continued to be after I graduated. Notice that I said I. He dropped out of tears, barely cutting it. Okay, who cares? After I moved out of the dorms into a small apartment, I didn't see Peter as much. We could talk online every now and then. AIM was king. Ew, God, that's that. I wouldn't know. I was born in 2000s. There was a period where he wasn't online for about 5 weeks straight. I was worried. He was a pretty serious flake and drug addict, so I assumed he just stopped caring. Then one night I saw him log on. Before I could initiate a conversation, he sent me a message. David, man, we need to talk. Oh boy. That was when he told me about NoEnd House. Got that name because no one had ever reached the final exit. The rules were pretty simple and cliche. Reach the final room of the building and you have 500 bucks. There were 9 rooms in all. The house was located outside the city, roughly 4 miles from my house. Apparently Peter had tried and failed. He was a heroin and who knows what the fuck addict. Okay. So far this is actually really well written. I like the fucking sarcastic tone the narrator has here. It's really good. So I figured the drugs got the best of him and he wigged out at a paper ghost or something. He told me it'd be too much for anyone, that it was unnatural. Oh no. Spooky dookies. I didn't believe him. I told him I would check it out the next night, no matter how hard he tried to convince me otherwise. 500 bucks sounded too good to be true. I had to go. I set out the fine night. Oh boy. That's how you die. That's how you die in these stories. When I arrived, I immediately noticed something strange about the building. Good grief, how cliche do you have to be? Have you ever seen or read something that shouldn't be scary, but for some reason should chill up your spine? Yeah, I have, actually, multiple times in my life. I walked toward the building and the feeling of unease only intensified as I opened the front door. Interesting. My heart slowed and let a relieved sigh. Oh, my heart slowed and I let a relieved sigh leave me as I entered the room looked like a normal hotel lobby decorated for Halloween. The sign was posted in place of a worker. It read, Room 1 this way, 8 more follow, reach the end you win. I chuckled my way to the first door. You know, I feel like you could have gone like because like the thing about the Channel Zero version of this creepypasta is that it actually used the main character's fears and insecurities in a way that made sense for them. And I don't think it does here because I can't see anything that would quantify any of it at all for the main character, considering the entire theme of No End House. A house is a haunted house that uses your worst fears to get to you. So I don't understand why they wouldn't try and put some more character development before this. Maybe like a prelude before when they were friends. I don't know. I just feel like having some character development other than oh I went to the house and was creepy would have been accepted and probably welcomed more than what this is. First area was almost laughable. The decorism of the Halloween aisle of a Kmart. Oh, those are gone now. Complete with sheet ghosts, animatronic zombies that gave a static growl when you passed by. At the far end was an exit. It was the only door besides the one I entered through. I brushed through the fake spiderwebs and headed for the second room. I was greeted by fog as I opened the door to room 2. The room definitely upped the ante in terms of technology. Not only was there a fog machine, but a bat hung from the ceiling and flew in a circle. Scary. See, I love the tone. I love the tone it's written in, the sarcastic type. That's really fun. You don't see a lot of pastas written that way anymore, because like back then it was all over the place, I think, but like nowadays not so much. It seemed to have a Halloween soundtrack that one would find in a 99-cent store on loop somewhere in the room. I didn't see stereo, but I guess they must use a PA system. Stepped over a few toy rats that wheeled around and walked with a puffed chest across the next area. I reached for the doorknob and my heart sank to my knees. I did not want to open that door. A feeling of dread hit me so hard I could barely even think. Okay? You're not exactly explaining why. Although I guess instincts are probably the reason. Whatever. Logic overtook me after a few terrified moments and I shook it off and entered the next room. Room 3 is when things began to change. Hmm. On the surface, it looked like a normal room. There was a chair in the middle of the wood paneled floor. A single lamp in the corner did a poor job of lighting the area, casting a few shadows across the floor and walls. That was the problem. Shadows. Plural. That's actually. Ugh. Picturing that is actually making me pretty creeped out, but whatever. With the exception of that's, oh, it's okay. I made the mistake with, like, the chair's shadow. There were others. They'd barely walked in the door and I was already terrified. Okay. You're losing me here. You started out so strong and now you're losing me. Makes no sense for him to be terrified. Oh no, a shadow with two chairs. Maybe there's a projector or a hot, like, shit like that. Optical illusions, not just jumping straight to oh my god, I'm fucking scared. That doesn't make any sense. It was at that moment I knew something wasn't right. I didn't even think. I automatically tried to open the door I came through. It was locked from the other side. That set me off. Okay, yeah, that would give you that logically makes you that would make anyone freaked out, I think, if you're like trying to get out and yeah, fuck that. The shadow, no, not so much. That I don't think that would immediately make you terrified. That set me off. If someone locking the door as I progressed, there was no way I would have heard them. Was it a mechanical lock that set automatically? Maybe, but I was too scared to really think. Why would you be scared? I don't understand that. I turned back to the room and the shadows were gone. Chair's shadow remained, but the others were gone. I slowly began to walk. I used to hallucinate as a kid, so I wrote off the shadows as film imagination. Began to feel better as I made it to the halfway point of the room. I looked down at my steps, and that's when I saw it. Or didn't see it. My shadow wasn't there. I didn't have time to. Why would you scream? I don't understand. I don't understand this, dude. Hmm. See, I feel like the author here is really forcing the fear. Because there's no fucking way any rational human would be scared of their like that. Like maybe a baby creeped out, but Seared have to scream? Nah, no. I sat like their door and found myself without thinking the room beyond. Oh boy, the fourth room is possibly the most disturbing. Oh no. As I closed the door, all light seemed to be sucked. I hate that hyperbole. I hate that sentence. You didn't need to add that. You could have just said, as I close the door. That would have been way better than what you fucking did here. All, dark, all light seemed to be sucked out and put back into the previous room. I stood there, surrounded by darkness, not able to move. I'm not afraid the dark never have been, but I was absolutely terrified. Oh my god, the fucking hyperbole here. All sight had left me. I held my hand in front of my face, and if I didn't know what I was doing, I would have never been able to tell. Darkness doesn't describe it. I couldn't hear anything. It was dead silence. When you're in a soundproof room, you can still hear yourself breathing. You can hear yourself being alive. I couldn't. Oh, okay, that's pretty fucking creepy. That that's pretty fucking creepy. I got it. Ugh. Began to stumble forward after a few moments. My rapidly beating heart, the only thing I could feel. There was there was no door in sight. Wasn't even sure there was one this time. The silence was broken then by a low hum. Okay, I really don't. Okay. I felt something behind me. I spun around wildly but could barely even see my nose. I knew it was there, though. Regardless of how dark it was, I knew something was there. The hum grew louder, closer. It seemed to surround me, but I knew whatever was causing noises in front of me, inching closer. I had never felt that kind of fear. I can't really describe true fear. I wasn't even scared I was going to die. I was scared what the alternative was. I was afraid of what this thing had in store for me. And the lights flashed for a second and I saw it. Nothing. I saw nothing and I know I saw nothing there. The room was again plunged into darkness and the hum became a wild screech. I screamed in protest. I couldn't hear this damn sound for another minute. I ran backwards away from the noise, fumbled for the door handle, and turned and fell into room 5. Okay. Um, okay, so that's uh that's when the fear should have started, not when you saw two shadows or no shadow. That's when the fear should have started. When you couldn't hear yourself fucking being alive, when you heard that, that's when the fear should have started, not when you saw multiple chair shadows. And maybe a bit creeped out when the fucking door was locked, okay, but like not terrified. But yeah, that's definitely enough to make anyone fucking piss themselves shitting. Like that definitely plays on like your instinctual fear of not knowing what's there. And that's honestly way scarier than anything, really. The unknown is way scarier than anything else. Because everyone's afraid of it. Before I describe room 5, you have to understand something. I am not a drug addict. I have no, okay, cool. And any sort of psychosis short of the childhood hallucination I mentioned earlier, and those were only when I was really tired just waking up. Yeah, I had hallucinations when I was really tired waking up too. Hmm. I entered the NoEnd house with a clear head. After falling in from the previous room, my view of the room 5 was from my back. Looking up at the ceiling, what I saw didn't scare me, it simply surprised me. Trees had grown into the room and towered above my head. The ceilings in this room were taller than the others, which made me think I was in the center of the house. Excuse me. I got up off the floor, dusted myself off, and took a look around. It was definitely the biggest room of them all. I couldn't even see where the door was. Various brush and trees must have blocked my line of sight with the exit. Hmm. Ugh. Oh boy. Up to this point, I figured the rooms are going to get scarier, but this is paradise compared to last room. I also assumed whatever's in the room 4 stayed back. I was incredibly wrong. Foreshadowing. As I made my way deeper into the room, I began to hear what one would hear if they were in a forest. Chirping birds and the occasional flap of chirping bugs and the occasional flap of birds seemed to be my only company in this room. That was the thing that bothered me most. I heard the bugs and other animals, but I didn't see any of them. I began to wonder how big this house was. From the outside, when I walked up to it, it looked like a regular house. It was definitely on the bigger side, but this was almost a full forest in here. The canopy covered my view of the ceiling, but I assumed it was still there, however high it was. The fuck was that? I don't feel comfy, right? Okay. Huh. I know that it's really poorly written at times and that it like the fucking idea is wasted here, but I'm still a pussy, so what do you expect? The canopy covered my view of the ceiling, but I assumed it was still there, however high it was. I couldn't see into the walls either. The only way I knew I was still inside was that the floor matched the other rooms, the standard dark wood paneling. I kept walking, hoping the next straight path would reveal the door. After a few moments of walking, I had a mosquito flying in my arm. Oh no, true horror. Mosquitoes fucking suck. I shook it off and kept going. A second later, I felt about 10 more land on my skin at different places. Felt them crawl up and down my arms. Okay, no. And a few made their way across my face. I flowed wildly to get them all up, but they just kept crawling. I looked down and let out a muffled scream, more of a whimper to be honest. I didn't see a single bug. Not one bug was on me, but I could feel them. Okay, I really hate that. That is disgusting. I heard them fly by my face and stew my skin, but I couldn't see a single one. I dropped to the ground and began to roll wildly. I was desperate. I hated bugs, especially ones I couldn't see or touch. What? Is this a usual occurrence for you? Do you just. My god. But these bugs could touch me and they were everywhere. Oh no. I began to crawl. I had no idea where I was going. The entrance was nowhere in sight, and I still hadn't even seen the exit, so I just crawled, my skin wriggling with the presence of those phantom bugs. After what seemed like hours, I found the door. I grabbed the nearest tree and propped myself up, mindlessly slapped my arms and legs no avail. I tried to run, but I couldn't. My body was exhausted from crawling and dealing with whatever it was that was on me. I took a few more shaky steps to the door, grabbing each tree on the way for support. It was only a few feet away when I heard it. The low oh, okay. Why is that something that would happen though? Like what part of his insecurities and fears has anything to do with a fucking hum? I don't understand. Oh my god. It was coming from the next door and it was deeper. I could almost feel it inside my body, like when you stand next to an amp at a concert. It's a pretty good analogy, gotta say. Feeling of bugs on me lessened as the hum grew louder. Placed my hand on the doorknob. The bugs were completely gone, but I couldn't bring myself to turn the knob. I knew that if I let it go, the bugs would return. There was no way I would make it back to room 4. I just stood there, my head pressed against the door mark 6 and my hand shakily grasping the knob. The hum was so loud I couldn't even hear myself pretend to think. There was nothing I could do but move on. Room 6 was next, and room 6 was hell. Admit the fucking hyperbole. You don't need that. I closed the door behind me, eyes held shut, my ears ringing. The hum was surrounding me. As the door clicked into place, the hum was gone. I opened my eyes in surprise, and the door I had shut was gone. Oh no, how horrible. Oh my god. What's how I feel about your fear? Looked around in shock. The room was identical to room 3, the same chair and lamp, but with the correct amount of shadows this time. The only real difference was there's no exit door, and the one I came in through was gone. As I said before, I had no previous issues of mental instability, but at that moment I fell into what I now know was insanity. I didn't scream, I didn't make a sound. At first I scratched softly.
The wall was tough, but I knew the door was there somewhere. I just knew it was. I scratched where the doorknob was. I clawed at the wall frantically with both hands, my nails being filed down to skin against the wood. How fucking long were you doing this? Jesus. I fell to my knees, the only sound in the room, the incessant scratching against the wall. I knew it was there. The door was there. I knew it was just there. I knew if I could pass this wall. Are you alright? I jumped off the ground and spun in one direction. Spun in one motion. I leaned against the wall behind me, and I saw what it was. It spoke to me, and to this day I regret ever turning around. Wow, I hate that. That's fucking awful. Hyperbole. Mm, maybe I don't know. There was a little girl. She was wearing a soft dress that went down to her ankles. She had long blonde hair to the middle of her back and white skin and blue eyes. She was the most frightening thing I had ever seen, and I knew that nothing in my life will ever be as unnerving as what I saw in her. Okay? You've been insane, buddy? Well, looking at her, I saw something else. Where she stood, I saw what looked like a man's body, only larger than normal and covered in hair. He was naked from head to toe, but his head was not human and his toes were hooves. Oh no, it's a furry. It wasn't the devil, but at that moment it might as well have been. The form had the head of a ram and the snout of a wolf. It's a fucking furry. Oh my god, are you afraid of? Oh boy. It was horrifying and synonymous with the little girl in front of me. They were the same form. I can't really describe when I saw them at the same time. But I saw them at the same time. They shared the same spot in that room, but it was looking at two separate dimensions. When I saw the girl, I saw the form. When I saw the form, I saw the girl. Okay? I couldn't speak. I could barely even see. My mind was revolting against what it was attempting to process. I had been scared before in my life, and I had never been more scared than when I was trapped in the fourth room. But that was before room 6. I just stood there, staring at whatever it was that spoke to me. There was no exit. I was trapped here with it. And then it spoke again. David, you should have listened. When it spoke, I heard the words little girl, but the other form spoke to my mind in a voice I won't attempt to describe. Oh, really? There was no other sound. The voice just kept repeating that sentence over and over in my mind, and I agreed. The fuck? What do you mean you should have What's happening? Okay, whatever. I shouldn't ask that question. It's fucking bullshit anyway. I didn't know what to do. I was sitting in a mansion. I kept my eyes on what was in front of me. Oh, really? You can't. You can't, huh? I dropped to the floor. I thought I had passed out, but the room wouldn't let me. I just wanted it to end. I was on my side, my eyes wide open, the form staring down at me. Scurrying across the floor in front of me was one of the battery-powered rats from the second room. The house was toying with me, but for some reason, seeing that rat pulled my mind back whatever depths it was in and looked around the room. I was getting out of there. I was determined to get out of that house and live and never think about this place again. I knew this room was hell. I wasn't ready to take up a residency. Okay, that's actually a really good sentence. Um, I like that sentence a lot. At first, it was just my eyes. It was my eyes that moved. I searched the walls for any kind of opening. The room wasn't that big, so it didn't take long to soak up the entire layout. The demon still taunted me, the voice growing louder as the form stayed rooted where it stood. I placed my hand on the floor, lifted myself to all fours. What? And what the fuck? And the okay, I'm not sure that sentence makes sense. Turned to scan the wall behind me. Then I saw something I couldn't believe. The form was now at my back, whispering into my mind how I shouldn't have come. I felt its breath on the back of my neck, but I forced to turn around. Oh boy, oh no. A large rectangle was scratched into the wood with a small dent chipped away in the center of it. Right in front of my eyes, I saw the large seven-eyed mindlessly etched into the wall. Okay, that's kind of funny. I knew what it was. Room 7 was just beyond what that wall where room 5 was moments ago. Ooh, no. I didn't know how I had done it. Maybe it was just supposed to say a mind at a time, but I created a door. I know I had. My mind decided scratched into the wall what I needed most. An exit to the next room. Room 7 was close. I knew the demon was right there, it was right behind me. For some reason, it couldn't touch me. Closed my eyes and placed both hands on the large 7 in front of me. I pushed. I pushed it as hard as I could. The demon was now screaming in my ear. It told me I was never leaving. It told me this was the end, but I wasn't going to die. I was going to live there in room 6 with it. I wasn't. It just wants a roommate, dude. It just wants a friend. Give it a friend, why don't you? I pushed and screamed at the top of my lungs. I knew I was going to push the wall eventually. I clenched my eyes shut and screamed, and the demon was gone. Hmm, interesting. I was left in silence. I turned around slowly. I was greeted by the room as it was when I entered, just a chair and a lamp. I couldn't believe it. I didn't have time to as well. I turned back to the 7 and jumped slightly. When I saw a door, it wasn't what I had scratched in, but a regular door with a large 7 on it. My whole body was shaking. It took me a while to turn the knob. I just stood there for a while, staring at the door. I couldn't stay in room 6. I couldn't. But if this was only room 6, I couldn't imagine what 7 had in store. That's a grammatical mistake. I must have stayed there for an hour, just staring at the 7. Finally, with a deep breath, I twisted the knob and opened the door to room 7. I stumbled through the door, mentally exhausted and physically weak. The door behind me closed where I was, and I realized where I was. I was outside. Not outside like room 5, but actually outside. My eyes stung. I wanted to cry. I fell to my knees, but couldn't, and tried, but I couldn't. I was finally out of that hell. I didn't even care about the prize that was promised. I turned and saw the door I just went through was the entrance. I walked to my car and drove home, thinking about how nice a shower sounded. As I pulled up to my house, I felt uneasy. The joy of leaving NoEnd house had faded, and dread was slowly building in my stomach. I shook it off as residual from. Okay. We're getting really close to the end. I know that much. I entered and immediately went up to my room. There was on my bed. There on my bed was my cat, Baskerville. That's a funny name for a cat. He was the first living thing I had seen all night, and I reached to pet him. He hissed and swiped at my hand. I recoiled in shock, as he had never acted like that. I thought, whatever, he's an old cat. Jumped in the shower and got ready for what I was expecting to be a sleepless night. After my shower, I went to the kitchen to make something to eat. I descended the stairs, turned to the living room, and what I saw would forever be burned into my brain, however. My parents were lying on the ground, naked and covered in blood. Oh no. Talk about Edgyton. They were mutilated to near unidentifiable states. Their limbs were removed and placed next to their bodies, and their heads were placed on their chests facing me. Oh, of course. This is like literally fucking something a 14-year-old emo would come up with to scare people, my god. The most unsettling part was their expressions. They were smiling. Oh my god, what is this? Is this Jeff the Killer? No, this is actually like 10, like 100 times, 1,000 times better than Jeff the Killer. Still bad though. They were smiling as though they were happy to see me. Oh boy, I vomited and sobbed there in the family room. I didn't know what had happened. They didn't even live here with me at the time. I was a mess. Then I saw it. A door that was never there before. A door with a large 8 scrawled on it in blood. Oh no. I was still in the house. I was still in my family room, but I was in room 7. The faces of my parents smiled wider as I realized this. They weren't my parents. They couldn't be, but they looked exactly like them. The door marked 8 was across the room, behind the mutilated bodies in front of me. God, can you stop being edgy? My god. I knew I had to move, but at that moment I gave up. The smiling faces tore into my mind. They grounded me where I stood. I vomited again and nearly collapsed. Then the hum returned. It was louder than ever and it filled the house and shook the walls. The hum compelled me to walk. I began to walk slowly, making my way closer to the door and bodies. I could barely stand, let alone walk, and the closer I got to my parents, the closer I came. Oh my god, really? Really? It started out so promising, and now we're doing this garbage. The walls were now shaking so hard it seemed as though they were going to crumble, but still the faces smiled at me. Oh my god, stop with the fucking edginess. As I inched closer, their eyes followed me. I was now between the two bodies. A few feet away from the door, the dismembered hands crawled their way across the cut. Oh my god, what is this, Beetlejuice? All the while, the faces continued to stare. New terror washed over me, and I walked faster. I didn't want to hear them speak. I didn't want the voices to match those of my parents. They began to open their mouths, and the hands were inches from my feet. In a dash of desperation, I lunged toward the door, threw it open, and slammed it behind me. Room 8. I was done. After what I just experienced, I knew there wasn't anything else this fucking house could throw at me that I couldn't live through. There was nothing short of the fires of hell that I wasn't ready for. That's actually a pretty good sentence. I like that. Unfortunately, I underestimated the bills of NoEnd house. Unfortunately, things got more. Oh my god, shut up with the fucking bullshit. I still have trouble believing me. I still have trouble believing what I saw in room 8. Again, the room was a carbon copy of rooms 3 and 6, but sitting in the empty chair was a man. After a few seconds of disbelief, my mind finally accepted the fact that the man sitting in the chair was me. Not someone who looked like me, it was David Williams. Oh no, how terrifying. I walked closer. I had to get a better look when I was sure of it. He looked at me, and I noticed tears in his eyes. Please, please don't do it. Please don't hurt me. What? I said. Who? I asked. Who are you? I'm not going to hurt you. Yes, you are. He was sobbing now. You're going to hurt me. I don't want you to. Oh my god. He sat in the chair with his legs and began rocking back and forth. It was actually pretty pathetic looking, especially since it was me, identical in every way. Listen, who are you? I was now only a few feet from my doppelganger. It was the weirdest experience yet, standing there talking to myself. I wasn't scared, but I would be soon. Why are you? You're going to hurt me. 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 If you want to leave, you're going to hurt me. Why are you saying this? Just calm down, all right? Let's try and figure this. And then I saw it. The David sitting down wearing the same clothes as me, except for a small red patch in his shirt embroidered with the number 9. You're going to hurt me. You're going to hurt me. Don't, please. You're going to hurt me. Okay, then. This is really fucking edgy and ridiculous, and I don't understand. Ah, boy. This is what I was commenting on my in my that one video that you have to kill yourself. Yeah, this is fucking ridiculous. This is ridiculously stupid. My eyes didn't leave that small number on his chest. I knew exactly what it was. The first few doors were plain and simple, but after a while they got a little more ambiguous. 7 was scratched into the wall, but my own hands. 8 was marked in blood above the bodies of my parents. But 9, this number was on a person, a living person. Worse still, it was on a person that looked exactly like me. David? I had to ask. Yes, you're going to hurt me. You're going to hurt me. He continued to sob and rock. He answered to David. He was me, right down to the voice. But that 9. I paced around for a few minutes while he sobbed in his chair. The room had no door, and similar to 6, the door I came through was gone. For some reason, I assumed that scratching would get me nowhere this time. I studied the walls and floor around the chair, sticking my head underneath and seeing if anything was below. Unfortunately, there was. Below the chair was a knife. Attached was a tag that read, "To David, from management, my god, why?" I hate this. This is actually such a shitty thing. The feeling in my stomach as I read the tag was something sinister. I wanted to throw up, and the last thing I wanted to do was remove the knife under that chair. The other David was still sobbing uncontrollably. My mind was spinning into an attic of unanswerable questions. Who put this here, and how did they get my name? Not to mention the fact that as I knelt on the cold wood floor, I also sat in the chair, sobbing in protest of being hurt by myself. It was all too much to process. The house and the management, they've been playing me with me this whole time. My thoughts for some reason turned to Peter, and whether or not he had got this far. If he did, if he had met a Peter Terry sobbing in this very chair, rocking back and forth. I shook those thoughts out of my head. They didn't matter. I took the knife under the chair, and immediately the other David went quiet. David, he said in my voice, what do you think you're going to do? I lifted myself from the ground and clutched the knife in my hand. I'm going to get out of here. Oh my god. David was still sitting in the chair, though he was very calm now. He looked at me with a slight grin. I couldn't tell if he was going to laugh or strangle me. Slowly he got up from the chair and stood facing me. It was uncanny. His height and even the way he stood matched mine. I felt the rubber hilt of the knife in my hand gripped it tighter. I didn't know what I was planning on doing with it, but I had a feeling I was going to need it. Tss. Now, his voice was slightly deeper than my own. I'm going to hurt you. I'm going to hurt you. I'm going to keep you here. Oh, really? So edgy. So fucking edgy. I didn't respond. I just lunged and tackled him to the ground. I mounted him and looked down, knife poised and ready. He looked up at me, terrified. It was like I was looking in a mirror. Then the hum returned, low and distant, though I still felt it deep in my body. David looked up at me as I looked down at myself. The hum was getting louder, and I felt something snap inside me. With one motion, I slammed the knife into the patch of his chest and ripped down. Psst. The darkness around me was like nothing I experienced up to that point. Room 4 was dark, but it didn't come close to what was completely engulfing me. I wasn't even sure if I was falling after a while. It was felt weightless, covered in dark. Then a deep sadness came over me. I felt lost, depressed. Okay, really. The sight of my parents entered my mind. I knew it wasn't real, but I had seen it, and mind has trouble differentiating between real and what isn't. The sadness only deepened. I was in room 9 for what felt like days. The final room, and that's exactly what it was. The end. No End House had a hand, and I had reached it. That moment I gave up. I knew I would be in that in-between state forever, guided by nothing but darkness. Not even the hum was there to keep me sane. I'd lost all my senses. I couldn't feel myself. I couldn't hear anything. Sight was completely useless here. I searched for a taste in my mouth and found nothing. I felt disembodied and completely lost. I knew where I was. This was hell. Room 9 was hell. You said that about room 6, dude. Then it happened. A light. One of those stereotypical lights at the end of the tunnel. I felt ground come up from below me and I was standing. After a moment or two, we got into my thoughts and senselessly walked toward that light. As I approached the light, I took form. It was a vertical slit, down the unmarked, down the side of an unmarked door. I slowly walked through the through the door and found myself back where I started, the lobby of NoEnd House. It was exactly how I left it, still empty, still decorated with childish Halloween decorations. After everything that happened that night, I was still wary of where I was. After a few moments of normalcy, I looked around the place trying to find anything different. On the desk was a plain white envelope with my name written on it. Immensely curious yet still cautious, I mustered up the courage to open the envelope. Inside was a letter, again handwritten. David Williams, congratulations, you have made it to the end of No End House. Please accept this prize as a token of great achievement. Yours forever, management. With the letter were five $100 bills. I couldn't stop laughing. I laughed what seemed like hours. I laughed as I walked out to my car and I laughed as I drove home. I laughed as I pulled in my driveway. I laughed at my front door to my house and laughed as I saw the small 10 etched into the wood. And there's the ball. There's the drop. There's the ball drop. Jesus fucking Christ. Long. Oh my god, you poor baby. Holy frick, that was the best story. No, it wasn't. No, it's not. No, no, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. God, these fucking people are absolutely ridiculously stupid. Okay. So, in short, I would give that about a 5 out of 10. There were at least some good moments, but at the same time, it was overwhelmed by the majority of the rest of it being completely edgy and just terrible. So thanks for watching. Whatever.